We've been trying to have you here for the longest period of time. Thank you for being here. Pinky, thank you very much for making it here. We also have Ashish, who is he is now an integral part of NSW. So he does. I lean heavily on him as he's on our advisory board and he helps us with theatre and world language and many other things. And also, we have ritualistic deadlines for them. We are so thank you very much for making the time to be here. We also have Deepti Kumar. Deepti is here. She is the head of broadcast journalism program here for PhD students. Unfortunately for us, she had to take up a really important assignment, unfortunately for her, at the US State Department. So she's the director of digital engagement. She was previously, I'm not going to take your introductory lines, but thank you, Deepti, for making your way here from Chennai. Thanks a lot for being here. And welcome you all. We're just going to have it in a very informal manner. We can have a small panel discussion. We keep our groups very close so that we can have honest discussion. So the first panel is going to be with the experts who will give us insight into their own lives, the way they have sort of be the journalists that they are, and those who contribute to society through the work that they are calling that they have responded to. And then we have another second more casual panel with some of the faculty members of PhD students and our valedictorian from last year, Manisha, this year. And we'll talk about some of the programs and what we do here, and then we'll have a time of tea and coffee interaction. So hopefully an hour and a half, and we'll be done. And welcome again to NSW.
For the first panel discussion about careers after journalism, I would like to invite our panelist, Mr. Suresh Menon, the editor of Wisdom India Almanac, the Bible of Cricket, and a contributing editor to the New. He was one of the youngest sports journalists in the country and is reported from all the cricket-playing countries in a career spanning over 3 decades. It is a pleasure to have you with us, sir. The second panelist for the day is Ms. Maya Sharma, the executive editor for New Delhi Television, NDTV, South. She has been a television journalist for 29 years as a reporter, anchor, and a documentary filmmaker. She has covered major stories from the crimes and death of Veerappan to the floods in Karnataka. It's a pleasure to have you, sir. The third panelist for today is Mr. Baba Prasad. He is a veteran journalist with over 35 years of experience. He has served as the news editor for The Hindu in Bangalore. Earlier, he was with the Indian Express and other midday groups. He is widely recognized for his accomplishments in the newsroom as well as the classroom. It's a pleasure to have you with us, sir. The next panelist is Ms. Deepti Kumar. She is a digital engagement director at the US Consulate General in Chennai. She was the broadcast instructor and an advisory board member of National School of Journalism. She was also the US correspondent of the NDTV. And the final panelist for the discussion is Ms. Pinky Chandran, who is the co-founder of Radioactive 90.4, Bangalore's first community radio station. She is also a founding member of the Solid Waste Management Roundtable, Comedy Lab, and a trustee of Hasiru Dala. It's a pleasure to have you with us now. The moderator for this discussion will be Mr. Ashish Sen, who is an independent media consultant, trainer, and journalist with more than 30 years of experience. He has worked extensively with the community media in India, South Asia, and Asia Pacific. He is also engaged with marginalized and less privileged communities. It's a pleasure to have you with us, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks very much, and thank you to NSOJ and everyone over here for giving me this opportunity over here. You really don't need me because I think you've got leading luminaries from the media over here who, once this conversation starts, I think I prefer to sit there and listen. But I've been given a role to do, and so to make it short and sweet, let me just explain how I feel we should take this session forward. We're going to have about 3 rounds, and in the first round, I'm going to ask the panelists to, although they have been introduced, to say a few words about themselves and their work, so that it gives us a glimpse and insights into their areas of specialization and their concerns about the media and the media trajectory in India and indeed outside India. And then after that, we'll cull from what they're saying, pick up a few salient threads, ask them, leading their thoughts, leading questions, and then we'll open it up to the House to take questions from you. I hope that's all right. Does that work? Great. Okay, so before we begin, just a few words from my side. I think it's a fascinating time to talk about the media, both in terms of challenges and opportunities. And in many ways, the media, when I think of the media landscape, it seems to be at the crossroads. And I'm reminded, and this will give you an insight into how old I am, of a Lewis Carroll poem from Alice in Wonderland, a verse. How many of you are familiar with the lobster quadrant? No, it just gives you, I wasn't asking the House over here, but there's a poem which goes like this: will you walk a little faster, said a whiting to a snail. There's a porpoise close behind us and he's treading on my tail. See how eagerly the lobsters and the turtles all advance. They're waiting on the shingle, won't you come and join the dance? Will you, won't you, will you, won't you join the dance? So why do I think of this poem? Because in many ways, when I think of the media today, the kind of blurring of lines between, in terms of technology, with the advent of social media, the digital space, with the kind of different kinds of media that are exploding before us every day, I think there's a huge amount of, like I said, blurring of lines, which offers opportunities and scope on the one hand, but on the other hand, it's double-edged, because even as the opportunities are there, there are issues related to freedom of expression and censorship that we have to reckon with. So the question is, should we join this dance? Should we not join this dance? And I think on that rather provocative note, I leave it to our distinguished panelists to take this forward. So may I start in any order with requesting, Pinky, would you like to start by sharing a few words about yourself and your work, Radioactive?
Radioactive is Bangalore's first community radio station. Just to tell you a little bit about how it started, it all started in 2005 when I had just joined Jain University. It was my first day at work, and they were inaugurating the Department of Communications, and an ex-colleague, Karthik, he mentioned that we should apply for a community radio license. At that point in time, apply for a community radio license sounded very glamorous. It sounded new, it sounded exciting, and everybody jumped at it. Towards the end of the day, we chased him down, found out what it was, what is community radio, and he said, let's just apply, the government is allowing. So in those days when we applied in 2005, licenses were allowed only for educational institutions. It was not until 2006 that the government allowed non-governmental organizations to apply for a community radio license. So we applied for it and we forgot about it. In 2006, when I was in Australia, a classmate of mine, whom I met in Sydney, said, I can't meet you for more than 2 hours because I have to go back and host a Kannada show at the Sydney Community Radio Station. So that got my antenna up, and I wondered what a community radio station was. So I called it back and I'm like, what is a community radio station? And he said, it's a community radio station. So basically implied that we should make sense of community and a radio station. We applied for it. 2007 was when it launched. But we didn't really understand the meaning of community because we had to demystify it and unlearn a lot of things that we normally associate with the word community. So that's how it all started, and I'll stop here.
Thank you. I've been privileged to be associated with Radioactive thanks to Pinky and her team. And I can tell you that they do fascinating work. We'll come to that in a short while when we get to know more about community radio. But for the moment, now over to you, Deepthi.
Okay, so I'm probably a new kid on the block when it comes to digital media. I currently work with the US Consulate General in Chennai, and the idea and the concept of a digital unit is still very new in the global market. People are still kind of understanding for themselves what digital media means, and I'm pretty sure everybody in this room has probably had some exposure to digital media at some level. Imagine doing social media all day long, getting paid to do it. That's partly what I do, but more than that, I have to wear something called a strategic hat. And it's very interesting because all through my career, I was a broadcast and digital journalist, and I believe I'm a person who loves being in front of the camera. For instance, when I was a kid, I've enjoyed doing makeup, make-believe news stories in front of the camera as a kid. I love travel, and so it was a very natural progression for me to get into media. And so my stint with journalism started as a student when ANI had actually come up with this online broadcast show called Bangalore Live. It was like back in 2007, 2008. And people didn't know what digital media was at that time because the internet was still a place that folks never really ventured. You had Siffy, you had a few little chat rooms, but that was really about it. And here I was with this big broadcast camera all around Bangalore city, shooting stories and telling stories of people. There was also that one glimpse into, talking to people in power. And I still remember one of the first notable names I met was Kiran Mazumdar Shaw. And incidentally, today she's in the newspaper for being one of the most influential people in the world. So who would have thought back then as, a young 18-year-old, talking to somebody in that seat of power would, catapult me into an industry that is just absolutely so good in terms of connections, in terms of networks, but also telling impactful stories. So through my career as a broadcast journalist, I've grown through educational learning, but also through experience that digital is really where we're all going. So why not jump on that wave sooner rather than later? And I get to do that through the US State Department. And so what we do is, everybody thinks of a consulate as a place where you get your visas. It's a lot more than that. We do a ton of programs. We also do a lot of outreach, and we'll talk about that through the course of this discussion. And then that's where I'm going to end it.
Thank you, Deepthi. We'll come back to that. The work that you're doing in a short while right now. Suresh?
Hi. Is that
Let me give you mine.
so we have a wires crossed for a moment.
Hi, lovely to see young bright faces here. Many years ago when I started out, about 150 years ago, I wanted to change the world like many of you are thinking now. I wanted to change the world. Then on second thoughts, I decided to leave it as it is. I decided to take up cricket reporting. And cricket was something of a passion with me, and I feel, as all those things said, reporting cricket for all these years. And it's been great fun. And somebody asked me this morning, why did I take up journalism? I really don't know why I took up journalism. I think journalism took me up. And that's when you become a real journalist. So keep these small things in mind, and I pass you on to Maya.
Thanks, Suresh. Maya.
I actually kind of fell into journalism accidentally. It was never, when I was growing up as a child, I wanted to be a reporter, I wanted to be an anchor. I was studying science right until the degree level. I was planning to do my MSc also in zoology. Then I thought, no. After I graduated, because I liked writing, because I liked communicating in writing, I thought, let me become a journalist. So I did my mass communication, and that's how I fell into it. So it was not a childhood passion. It was very accidental, but I'm really glad that I did that. Because all these years on, 150, right? All these years on, it's been a good 150 years. I mean, every day is different. I've met people whom I never would have met otherwise. I've gone to places I never would have been to otherwise. I feel like I have a kind of a front row with what's going on in this fascinating, maddening, disheartening, encouraging country of ours. We've managed to see all kinds of things, and I have no regrets at all about entering this. That doesn't mean it's always a smooth ride. There are days in the morning when you think it's going to be a nice, relaxed day, and then the government falls. You know, so it's like you have to be ready to move with what's going on. I didn't join to change the world. I mean, like this again, maybe I did in the sense you want to expose corruption, you want to speak for the voice to the voiceless. But I think it's also just been fascinating to watch the world change. These falling off. To watch the world change. That has also been fascinating. And the media has changed so much itself. As you was talking about the digital media. When I started my first live broadcast for the elections, we had this huge OB van, which was parked 24 hours in advance. Signals were tested, audio tested, light was tested. I was there a day ahead, testing the audio, testing the video. Then the next day when the politicians came, they came to us because we were the only channel there. It was like the interview would be between 6:55 and 7:03 because that was the satellite booking. It was so fixed. Now it's like if necessary I can take the phone out of my pocket and go live now from here at this moment in 30 seconds. So the change in technology has been something which has been fascinating to see. It's fascinating what the content of the news though has not been quite so encouraging. For me, I find that right now we're in a very disheartening phase of news cycles. You spoke about, you used to make up stories as a child. I think a lot of make-up stories are still going up there right now. Unfortunately. I'm hoping this is a cycle that will pass. It's a fascinating time. I don't need to discourage any of you from getting into it, but it's a time of change, it's a time of transition, and I'm hoping that things will get back to the old-fashioned journalism values of truth, balance, fairness, justice, changing the world. I hope so.
Thanks, Maya. Mr. Baba Prasad.
Do I need an introduction? I know a whole lot of you sitting here. What I'm now going to say, I've already said it 100 times in the classroom, every time. And as far as why I became a journalist, certainly not with any passion to become a journalist. I did not know much about the profession at the time. I was a government officer, the government of India, during emergency in 1975. The defense ministry. And I was witness to the kind of things that were happening in the country at the time. And as a matter of protest against lack of freedom to the people during emergency, I quit my post. Almost about to be thrown out of the house. My parents were very unhappy because I had a government job, well-paying government job in those days. And then here's a little fellow coming out of the government service with nothing to look forward in the future. One. Secondly, as a 11-year-old boy, I was introduced to literature, reading in original, and I nurtured the idea of becoming a writer in my life. Never happened, of course. So that was there inside. Some kind of writing somewhere I wanted to do something to do with writing in particular. And with this, which triggered me off from the government service was the emergency, the atrocities during the emergency. I came out and luckily, the Indian Express at the time, advertised for a particular category of employment, and I'm not very sure of getting it because there were 37 candidates for one post. I was lucky to get into that. I was the one selected. I started off in 1975, soon after I came back from Delhi. And that means 25 years of the last century I worked, full 25 years, 11 years in this century, which means I'm an old timer. I do not belong to this century, I belong more to the 20th century than the 21st century. But I've been able to mix the experience of both the centuries, and that's the reason perhaps I'm here, talking to my students, talking to people I know last 50 years now. As far as the changing trends, we have seen quite we talked about it. a whole lot of change has occurred from 1975, if you look at, and 2000, getting in 2020 now, enormous changes taking place. And as Maya was mentioned to us, quite a bit of imaginary things also go on in a field where truth, objectivity, fairness, and justice should have importance, you know. But having listened to that, having listened to this several times, not only from experts like these, but also from the public, I would like to emphasize this and impress upon young people like you that not everything has been so bad. Let's be positive about it, please. As young people, don't be disheartened about, the changes that have occurred in the last 20 or 25 years. Changes do occur, of course. And we don't belong there. Yeah, we make a decision that we don't belong there. I've never been on that side of journalism. You ask me, countless people have been a journalist who always spoke truth. Always in the company of licensed liars. Don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about journalists, I'm talking about writers. I've been in close contact with writers, in the sense, as a reader, for close to 6 decades of my life. And I'm not been influenced by any of that imaginary world. I can distinguish between the imaginary world and the real world in which I functioned 40 years. Right? We can't do that. Not everything is lost, although quite a bit is lost. People like you, like me, like Suresh, we have worked for so many years that are pained with the change that we are seeing today. But still, as young people, we have hope. We have hope for you, and there's no need to be totally distorted about the things that are happening in the media. And I'm sure in your hands it will be much safer than what it is today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Balaprasad. I think we've got quite a few insights already from what all our panelists have said. And 2 comments I think have been cross-cutting, and I'm going to mention those and then request the panelists to react to these. The first has to do with, I think, what Suresh mentioned when he said, I didn't choose journalism. Journalism chose me. And Maya then said that she got into journalism by accident, and the other panelists said the same thing. So my observation over there is both personal and also cross-cuts a larger sphere. At the personal level, I was privileged to do an interview some months ago with community reporters from Radioactive. And what was very, very interesting was that all the reporters that I spoke with didn't refer to Radioactive as a community radio station. And when provoked, they said, I don't think of myself a reporter. For me, community radio is my life. So the word life kept cropping up again and again. And I therefore would just like all of us over here with your expertise and years of experience to react to this and share your thoughts in that regard. The second insight that I had was something which I drew from what Maya said, and she talked about the implications of changing technology. And when she said that what is the price we've had to pay in terms of the fallout, in terms of content and truth, and I wish we could go back to the past in that sense, of the good old-fashioned journalism. My question to all the panelists is, so how much of you has had to change to actually reckon, contend, and deal with this change in technology, and what do you need to do to go there? Thank you. Yeah. Who'd like to go first? Well, sure.
It's a very interesting question, Ashish. Because when I started off in 75, technology was very primitive in this country. We didn't even have good printing presses. And proprietors of newspapers did not want to invest money in technology, buying 1 or 2 big papers. Even the big papers, Express was a very big paper, well-known paper in those days. And the printing equipment, the setting equipment, all primitive in those days. From that stage, when in 1981, for the first time, I saw computers, first time in 1981, in the newsroom. I'd only heard about them earlier. And it was also strange to me that I would sit before a computer and do my corrections, set my story, or edit my story on the computer. And, it was infodate last week, you know. I feel that way. And I protested for a while and said, I will not touch this computer because I'm a sub-editor, you know. And I've been, for the last 6 years, I've been using my pen. And I should continue to use my pen. And this is an instrument which is an equipment meant for the compositors, not for sub-editors. Yes, I will not use this. Believe me, for 3 months I didn't touch that. There was an interference, there was an appeal given to the highest authority, and I was slowly cajoled to look at the computer. The computer was shifted to my table later on, and I started slowly working on that. And when I retired, close to 30 years after that, then I also knew a bit of working on the computer, a bit of working on the computer.
Thank you.
There was an enormous change. It was a very big change between what it was in the 70s and in the right of the mid-80s. After that, technology was just there's been a tremendous change in technology, so much so that professionals for a long time felt that if they knew how to operate a computer, they're good journalists.
That's very, very interesting, Mr.
It's
Balagopal.
unfair. And from time to time, I had to tell my boys and girls over the decades that merely operating a computer is not a journalist's work. You know, that can be done by anybody who has learned how to use a computer for 6 or 7 days. You know, that was what the state was, and today it is it's a must. And you people of your generation, some extent people who work towards a variant of my service, learn that technology is essential, and technology helps the journalist in perform better. That's what I was.
Great, but is that easier said than done? And I think the kind of time you had to be persuaded to change and to be nimble, I think that's probably quickened. Pinky, would you say today that if community radio still stayed tied to the moorings of terrestrial radio, it would be where it is?
We've all heard, we've all listened to that song, Who Killed the Radio, Video Killed the Radio. But I think nobody can kill the radio because radio as an instrument is constantly morphing, it's constantly reinventing itself, and it's taking new forms and shapes, and I think it's constantly adapting. So in that context, I mean, look at the podcast. The beauty of radio is it is such a fluid state that it can just weave into any form that it wants to. Switch off the video and just listen, mute the video going on and then just listen to the audio, it's different. It's still some form of it. So I think, I think with the technology enhancement, it has only aided the reach of listening to a radio is what I would like to believe in. And all the other platforms, in some form or the other, kind of align. And now I think Deepthi would agree because now everyone's talking about who's going to kill the TV. If you'd like to add.
No, if you want to finish up the next,
That's fine. So that's what I believe that with each change, there is a way to intertwine, there is a way to blend in, mesh in, and find new ways of new avatars of reinventing yourself. So yes.
So as I'm listening to my panelists speak, but also thinking about the changing landscape of technology and the way we apply it. So you mentioned that you were a man that loved the pen. I must say that it's a funny juxtaposition to be in the technological age because it's completely shaking everyone up. And I think irrespective of our age or our experiences, technology makes everyone a learner yet again. And to adapt to it means you have to accept that change is right around the bend. And so nothing is the same. Like I think right now, NTV is using the Samsung Galaxy Note 10, which they are heavily advertising and I'm heavily following. And to be honest, that's a change. That's a change from something as bulky as that camera which is recording us, or the mobile phone that's probably streaming this whole event. So I think with change, you have to be willing to accept the fact that you're constantly going to keep learning. You can't know it all. And this is the one humbling experience of the industry we seem to be living in or seem to be walking into, is the fact that you're going to continuously be called a learner. and you can never really become the expert. And that's just part of the process. And I think the quicker we understand that, the better our adaptability will be to it.
Thank you, Dipti, for that.
Today we need to remind ourselves that we have to be learners constantly. Maya, Suresh, would you like to share your thoughts?
I think there's.
Now you listen back.
I was thinking, yeah. I think there's always been change, and I think there's always been change in the what should I say, the delivery system. You know, it could be a pen and paper, it could be the typewriter, it could be the computer. Those are just delivery systems. They are not that. They are not. That is not journalism. What we need to keep sight of is the fact that it's about objectivity, fairness, and all those things that Maya was talking about earlier. I think you should write it out there. And that is journalism. That journalism is not about the materials of journalism. It's like well, Kindle, to take a random example. You read a book on Kindle, or you read a physical book. It doesn't matter. The Kindle is a delivery system. The physical book is a delivery system. What is happening is that you're reading the contents. And in both cases you're reading the content. Whether you get the meanings of the words, whether you can copy and paste, whether you can read at night, lie down like this, whatever, that doesn't matter. The fact is that we should not confuse the delivery system with what is to be delivered. And this is something we've got to be aware of, because there is a chance. I say this because I've seen this happen in other situations. There is a chance to accept certain things as the gospel truth, as the final word. For example, possibly my grandmother's generation or my mother's generation possibly believed every single word they read in the newspaper. You try to argue with them. You say that there's only one moon and it's there, and that sort of thing, and Armstrong has landed on it or whatever. And they'd say something like, I don't think that's right. I don't think that's possible. Then you had to show them the newspaper and say, see, this is what the newspaper said. And then they believed you because it was the newspaper. And a similar thing is happening today. You're believed because you're on television. You're believed because it's on the internet. But these are just delivery mechanisms. And I think this is something that we've got to be very conscious of. It does not matter. They're not important. The computers and all these wonderful technological advancements are not important from the essential fact of sound, good. Again, I love this word, old-fashioned journalism, because old-fashioned journalism was about truth, was about objectivity. Not always. Let me quickly add. I'm not saying that 150 years ago journalism was perfect and everybody spoke the truth and politicians spoke the truth and we just reported the truth, etc. No, that's not the point. The point is that there was as much lying perhaps in those days as there is today. I mean, look at the three largest democracies in the world. We've got the heads of governments of the three largest democracies in the world, or the three most popular democracies in the world, have got into office by lying. They continue in office by lying. And they will continue in office by lying. And that is the lesson they're giving us. I mean, look at this generation of people. You are the ones who should be calling out those lies. Look at Boris Johnson. He can't open his mouth. You ask him the time of day, and you can't believe it. If he says it's 12 o'clock, you've got to check your watch twice. Look at Donald Trump, and look at the other man. It's incredible. It's incredible how these brothers in arms are, and it's not just these three countries. Look at Brazil, look at Turkey, look at China, look at Russia. The fact is that, as Maya said, this is a fantastic time to be a journalist, because these are the challenges before you. When I came in, whenever, early 80s or whatever, the sort of biggest problem, I think, political problem we had that year was whether Punjab should be recognized as a single state or whether there should be a separate capital, things like which is okay, which is quite delightful, sociologically fascinating, etc. But we didn't have this kind of fundamental issue of what is truth and what is not truth. And this sort of veil thrown over the two, so you couldn't tell one from the other. So that is the challenge. That is the challenge. And if you are not passionate about it, if you are not willing to throw yourself into it wholeheartedly, then you have no business being in journalism. And that's the point I'm trying to make. Forget the delivery mechanisms. It is what you do with those with the delivery mechanism. It is what you say, write, and do. That will make the difference. You can still change the world. I mean, I said this when I started out, and then later it became a kind of a family joke. But now I believe you can indeed change the world, but you have to give yourself a chance.
Thank you, Suresh. I think Suresh has really, Ms. Reynolds, brought us back to the center of this discussion, which is journalism and journalism in the context of truth, something that Maya first articulated. And thank you, because you've also done us a favor in terms of keeping pace with time, because from technology to the core values of journalism, that was going to be the next question. I'm going to subsume both and ask Maya to comment on that. It's not about the technology per se, it's about what is journalism, the core of journalism, the values, truth.
I absolutely agree that the technology is not the message, the content is the message. But the technology and the delivery mechanisms have had a huge impact on journalism. The very speed, the very spread. Like back in the earlier days when there was the newspaper, a reporter had the entire day, their deadline was 1 a.m. They had to submit their reports by 1 a.m. That is time to check facts, to get both points of view, to get a well-rounded story. If your deadline was 1 o'clock in the morning. Later on in television, when we were there was a bulletin maybe in the evening, or even when I just joined NDTV. We used to uplink our stories through Doordarshan's satellite at 4 o'clock. So we had till 4 o'clock to work on this, get everything together, and then go on air. Now in the area of 24/7 television, you don't have that time. And that is affecting the message. We used to have this comment about another rival television channel, who I will not name. We used to say that never wrong for long. There's no retraction about wrong news just put out. Again, being an old-fashioned journalist, I would rather be right. I would rather not be the first with the news, but to know that if I'm saying it, it's right. I do not want to break news if I'm not sure about it, especially in tricky situations of riots. Wait. Prannoy tells us, you don't have to be the first to break the news of a death. If people are in hospital, if people wait, it's all right. You don't have to break the news if the celebrity has died or anything like that. So the speed, the technology, the delivery mechanisms has been an impact. While the message is, of course, the most important thing, we can't negate what the speed of technology has. Those days I was telling you about, when we had to go live between 11:17 and 11:21. That gives us time to formulate questions, that gives the politician time to think about what they want to say. Now you're really thinking on the fly, which is exciting in a way, but it can lead to a lot of mess, can lead to a lot of mistake, even with good intent, a lot of wrong news going out there. The second thing is we're talking about video killed the media, the video killed radio star. Who's killing television? I think it's social media. In many ways, the WhatsApp University, it's a forward. Have you seen this video? You see what's happening? All these Bangladeshi refugees rushing into India now. Or just look at this, this is a rapist being beaten up. See, they're all. But the thing is, you have to check everything. If you get a WhatsApp forward about something happening in Bangalore, it's your duty to check it out, even though you know it's not true. I went all the way to Tirupati once to show that Tirupati is not flooding. Because you were getting those pictures being sent around. So social media is, there are a lot of good things about it. The speed of delivery, the spread, the fact that it's the voices of everybody. I'm not dissing it, but there are many ways in which it's killing television. It's killing thoughtful journalism, because if it's in print, it's true. If it's on WhatsApp, it's true. Well, as you know, it isn't. I mean, you have all, most of you grown up in this world, but you do have to question what is out there.
Thank you so much, Maya. I think you've just pointed out the double-edgedness very, very succinctly. I think you've got scale, the scale at the expense of truth. What truth? Whose voice? All these questions are looming very, very large from what you've been saying. Thank you. And I think we've come back full circle, and I think in many ways this is an appropriate time to open up to the House. I'm sure you have lots of questions for the panelists. Any thoughts? I see a hand over there. So if you could introduce yourself, and then just a second, sir. May I pass you a mic, or would you come? I mean, I don't know what the protocol is.
Otherwise, I'm a teacher who can reach 120 in a class, no problem.
But, yeah, but maybe it might be a good idea to just.
No, it's okay.
Oh, honey. Yeah, if I could give you a roving mic, so we can take that out. And do you have, are there any other questions? So maybe there's one over there, thanks, and 2, 3, okay, so 1, 2, 3 now, thank you. Yeah, second.
Good evening to all of you. It's nice to see a lot of emails on the rest. I esteemed faculty as well as colleagues over here. Myself, I'm Dr. Narayan Swami, principal of Radiation Technology here. In fact, Madam Maya, way back 1980, which from Kapan Park, where exactly we've been giving the updates about the politics from that point of to till date. We observed the TV, particularly TV with the 19. Thanks, madam, for having this. Yeah. At the same time, today what's exactly is happening, I tell you, the moment when you see TV, from last say 2.5 decades, all of us have been watching this news feed, right? So earlier the people used to read news, but nowadays suddenly they switch out to the discussion mode. The one or the other TV, if you just switch over from say IDTV to India Today to Public TV, Republic TV, so on and so forth. One or other TV, what exactly we have been sensing that here, they are just taken sides by any one of the political outfit, they talk on their behalf. That's one point number one. Next is the matter which is being discussing over TV. It's not required to the present generation guys. For example, say today what is required? For about 30 to 40% of this population in this country are youngsters. There's no doubt in that. They need employability. They need the better economy today. They need future. They need better roads, better transportation, better telecommunications, so on and so forth. Nobody is discussing on that. They are discussing about something called as Zina, something about Jawaharlal Nehru, something about the history. I think a large number of friends who are sitting over here, they are born after 98, 2000 onwards. They are not even aware what exactly that history is all about. It's required, I agree, but at the same time, that itself is not the topic where which journalism today is discussing across the channels. I don't know whether you agree with me or not.
Thank
That's
you.
one. And another thing is, as Madam has rightly mentioned that, we have social media. Of course, in fact, in the TV, radios, and social media. Today, the people, wherever they are, they can access the information. So this is the planet. There's no doubt in that. But at the same time, what kind of messages, what kind of rumors have been spread across, what kind of false messages have been sent across various social media is also very important. I think how to curb that is another important aspect.
Thank you very much for your
My
comments.
last question is, the today journalism is no media house is fair and frank, and they really something like some kind of scared today.
Right.
So
Thank you.
they are not open up, and the intent of journalism is completely different. Probably they are very serious who have been sitting on the rest, you might be knowing. The real intent to reach the right message to the right people across the country. That's what
Thank
I
you very
want
much.
to
Yeah.
I think, thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak here.
Thank you so much for sharing your comments. May I ask if any of the panelists would like to react to these right now, or should we take a few more? Because take a few more, yeah? So just to flag off, relevance of journalism, fake news, and even I've forgotten. I'm sorry? Bias journalists. Yes.
Irrelevant discussion.
Right, there you go. Yes, yeah. If I could request you to keep your questions short and desist from too much content in the interest of time.
Yes.
Comment. Just one second.
Yeah,
Hello, sir. So you mentioned about the change that's happening over, and you said that you also have the urge to change the world, and I believe that most of us have the urge to change this world. So, considering today's circumstances in the media, do you feel that can we change this world? So, yeah.
Of course, and that's a short answer. If you have the passion for it, and if you think that the world needs changing, very often the world doesn't need changing. You just let it be, it's cyclical, it comes back, whatever. But it depends on, whatever it is, if you have the passion for it, of course you can change the world. And I think what you're doing, journalism, is a wonderful vehicle for change. And this is something that a lot of people of my generation have completely forgotten. And it's necessary for you to remind them. It's necessary for you to remind us. We have, let's be honest, my generation has screwed up in many ways. It's now up to you to make up for all the terrible things that my generation has done. So that's another challenge. I spoke about a challenge earlier. This is another challenge. And I think this is a good time. I keep repeating this. This is a good time because this is where you will make a difference. We do not have Pulitzer Prizes in India, but if we did, this is a time that a really good journalist could come out of a system like this.
Thank you. Thanks, Suresh. I suddenly realized that I'm in danger of losing my voice because I do consider myself to be a part of your generation. So I'm in the dock. But nonetheless, we had a question from here, and then over to you here.
First of all, thank you for the wonderful discussion which you had here. It was really helpful. My question is that journalists of my age and most of the people sitting here would agree to this, and of course you would do the same, is that journalism today is of course not only about going out and searching and collecting for news, but it is also about selling your news to a large mass of people. Because if we like it, we don't like it, it is a business, and we need to run this institutional, this industrially based business. So while promoting our news, there is a line which we need to draw between marketing and showing real news content. So what do you think? Don't you think that marketing to some extent will dilute the actual content of media? And if it does, how do we in the future counter this?
Thank you. Would the panelists like to react right now? Yep.
See, this is a gentleman that's been there for a long time. It's a newspaper today, not today, even last 50 years or 75 years, let's say, is a business, has been a business for a long time. It's not a new phenomenon. Newspaper is a big industry. Newspaper needs a lot of money, lots of investment is gone into it. And returns are also expected even in an industry like this. There's no doubt about it. But such pressures have been there ever since the newspaper industry or TV much later, of course, started. 100 years ago there was this problem, always there. So marketing forces are always there. Marketing forces have certain influence on the running of the newspaper. But over the years, what I have seen, or what my seniors told me, or what books have taught us, is that it's clearly possible to draw a clear line of demarcation between the responsibilities of an editorial team in a newspaper, which is supreme in a newspaper, and to coordinate also, not neglecting the business interests of the proprietor. It's possible, we have been able to do that, and this will continue to be there in the future for you and the coming generations. And the best way is to draw a line between the two as far as the functioning is concerned, but everybody should be interested in the business aspect also. As an editor, I cannot say this is exactly what I'm going to do and you go to help. Right? It's not possible. If the paper doesn't exist, the editor also does not exist. But there's no need for a compromise on the essentials of journalistic work. Truth, fact, accuracy, objectivity are essentials of journalistic work, whether you're on TV or newspaper, radio, wherever you are. Those is mandatory on part of the editor or the editorial team to maintain this under all circumstances. At the same time, being sympathetic to the needs of the proprietor. That's all I can say.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone, yeah, Deepti?
So there were two questions which I caught on to as well, which was the gentleman that asked about can we see change. The question is more about how can we see change, and your question about selling content or marketing content. Let's just first reiterate the point that we're making here, which is the journalistic tools that you need. You need to maintain your fairness, your balance, your reporting. If you have that grounded and anchored, you can market it anyway. And if you look at the medium, which my colleague mentioned, again, digital technology is a medium in which you're selling your news, right? You're marketing your news. When you do this, when you take technology and you make it personal, that's really where we are with digital technology today. More and more, all of you are following people that connect and are relatable to you. But as journalists, your opportunity is to connect to people by speaking the truth. Be fair. Use the right questions. Do not shy away, because in your attempt to look creative, you're diluting a point. So when you report, make sure you ask your questions. One of the things that I noticed this week was a journalist on Instagram. As this entire citizenship amendment bill has been going on, a lot of people don't even know what that's about. And this particular journalist did a very simple thing. She put up a post, and it's a she. She put up a post and she explained in 3 photographs, just textual photographs, what CAB was. And I thought that was so impactful, because what was she doing? She was going back to shoe leather reporting, state the what, the where, the when, the how. We are missing out a lot of these facts when we talk about reporting these days. So don't get too caught up in the marketing, because the truth will sell. The truth is always sold, which is why journalism still exists, and journalism will continue to exist over the years. Make sure that you use today's tools and evolve as those tools change.
I would really like to speak from a community media perspective, because in a community media perspective, everybody is a producer and everyone is a listener. So having that said, that can apply even to a social media scenario as well, but specifically speaking with community media, it's not about holding the mic, but it's about passing the mic, where you're actually talking about your own story in your own words, in your own dialect, in the way you want to be represented or to be heard and seen. So in that context, I think if I have to put marketing tools in that, I believe it's important, because if you have spoken about something, and first of all, because you're grounded in the community, you will obviously speak within the community. But what happens if you only speak within the community and not speaking to the other people as well to share your story? And I think in that context, marketing becomes important, but you're not directing. And like what Deepti said, you're just using the medium, and like what you said, social media is a personal medium. So I think you're just amplifying what you're speaking. So it is a part and parcel. Everything that we do has marketing written on your head. You can't detach it. Like every selfie you take, every photograph that you you post out, even a simple post or a tweet, everything is marketing. So poster making. As human beings, I think we've always been, not averse to using marketing tools and techniques, whether it is drawing on the walls, whether it is sculpting something, or whether it is painting. There is some form of communication throughout, and it's a way of reaching out. So I don't think the two can be divorced, is what I'm trying to say.
Thank you. Would any of the other panelists like to add anything to this? Mr. Yeah, could we come to the first question later, because there are a number of questions there, and I'd like everybody to react.
Sure, the whole issue of marketing, like when it struck me suddenly as a journalism student, when you realize that the newspaper is also the purveyor of ads, that the television channel is the purveyor of ads, and you realize that it took me some time to come to terms with it, that's where all our salaries come from. It's in an ideal world, yes, it would be, but that is where our salaries come from. Lankesh Patrike never had ads, he never took ads. Lakesh Rathke, if you Gauri's father, Gauri Lakesh's father, which gave him absolute freedom to say what he wanted. He relied on circulation, which is a very courageous thing to do. Not everybody could do that. But also marketing is not bad. Like you say, we're selling everything. Every day we're selling our ideas, our thoughts. We are selling all the time. Even the content, to go back to the first question of the gentleman at the back, the content is also selling when the subjects of discussion are often chosen because we think we'll get a good number of viewers there. Everybody's talking about this. This is what people are interested in. That's not necessarily negative. If an issue is getting everybody's attention, then if we're talking about the price of onions because we think people are concerned about it, or women's safety because people are concerned about it, we are looking at what a large number of people are interested in. That's not necessarily a bad thing. The new medias, lots of online news outlets are asking the subscribers for funding. They're saying, fund us, help us. Which is like, if you're interested in reading this, if you're interested in letting us continue, send us some funds. So that's an interesting thing. The danger of that though, it's like an echo chamber effect. We look for views we want to see. There are some channels I may subscribe to, some channels I won't. But it's a danger. It is something which needs to be thought. There needs to be a separation of editorial and sales. It's two separate functions. But it's an ongoing issue and it's a reality. Everybody wants to take over that at the end of the day.
Thanks, Maya. Great, terrific. Yeah, question.
Hello everyone. Ma'am, this question is for you. You called yourself an old-fashioned journalist. So in this ever-changing broadcast journalism, especially being a woman, is it challenging for you to, or what is your take on many broadcast journalists whose mantra is to be heard, one needs to be louder?
I think that's very, very sad. It's one of the changes in journalism. And I have found in my experience, in my interviews, if I'm not loud, if I'm listening, I will actually get more out of that person. You can ask difficult questions in a polite way. You can ask difficult questions in a calm way. Unless you're doing it for sensation. Unless you're doing it to say, I asked Ashish about the 3 crores he embezzled. You know? If I say, Ashish, you built 5 different houses, you have your own helicopter, where is that from? It's a different way of saying it. I'm not putting his back up. But if I want to be known as a journalist who asked him about it, it's what is your purpose? If you really want to get people to talk to you, you have to listen. It's not about putting yourself out there. That's another change. The journalist should be the medium. The journalist is not the message. But what often happens is that so-and-so is there reporting, so-and-so is, which is a dangerous thing. Because we all have our own personalities, we all bring our own, whether we want to not, bring our own personalities, our ideas to the story that we're doing. But we are not the story. So I find that if you don't shout, people will talk to you. If you shout, they'll shout back. If you want that, see, they shouted at me. See, I was pushed around. I was shoving the mic in their face and they pushed me back. You see how they pushed me? That is a different, that's not journalism, that's showbiz.
Thank you, Maya, for that. Some more questions, comments, observations? Well, while you're still, yes, Timothy.
I was really happy when he mentioned Rakesh Patrika, because I think and it's self-serving, but I don't mind it being self-serving. I think there's a big role for journalism schools to actually be news organizations. And I think that's what NSOJ has done. We have our own digital news portal. As you know, and at least our students know, we're completely unfunded, unsupported by the government. We refuse investments, refuse contributions. We run it completely just by fees and a lot of personal sacrifices. So, but what we have done is establish and with our PG students and our amazing faculty members who are anchored with these old-fashioned values of justice, democracy. We're able to produce news, and we can invite people, have a platform. Nobody can tell us not to invite anybody. Nobody can tell us not to publish anything. I think there's a great model to be had there, because if you look at this room, we have 60 journalists. How much is that going to cost for a company to hire? We need to hire 60 journalists. I think we have scale. So with the right training, I do think we are onto something really big, and we're working on that as a project. And so I just think fundamentally, if you are funded by the government, ad revenue relies on the governments for ads or corporations for ads, you are compromised. I just think that there are no two ways. It is just compromise. It's impossible. It's, I think, pretty much impossible. You need to go back to public. I mean, the BBC does a good job. We don't have that kind of thing here. And so it's a bit of a commentary, but going back to Maya, especially, I think television news, how have you, have you had pressure to report things one way or the other? And how do you, especially in television, there's no distinction between commentary and news anymore. How do you deal with that? People don't know, they're consuming commentary as news.
Fortunately, and again, not just because I am working there, I have not faced that pressure in my channel. We have faced the consequences of trying to tell the truth. We have faced the consequences of not necessarily following the line of the current government, whichever that government is. That is something which there is a mindset about NDTV which is not true. We have always questioned the people in authority. We have paid the price for that. So personally, no, never. Never have I been told to go easy on that story, attack that party, highlight this. Never. Never. Which is fortunate for me. But I have seen, obviously, other colleagues in the field from other channels. Some stories are not covered at all. Some stories are not highlighted at all. It's very sad. It's extremely sad. I'm hoping, like I said at the very beginning, I'm hoping it's a cycle which will pass. I'm hoping we will get back. I'm hoping we'll be around to see it as a channel.
Thank you. I mean, on that very, very sobering note, I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will. I think there's fingers crossed, toes crossed, everything crossed. I think we'll definitely get there. We must get there. I think it's, in that sense, a very, very challenging time in lots of ways. Not just in terms of sustainability, but in actually addressing the core of why we are here. Would anyone else like to actually add to what Maya has said in that context? Do you feel that there is a struggle in this context in the area of community radio, for instance, or community media making?
I'm not sure if you're aware, but community radio per se, and both the commercial and community radios are not allowed to do news and current affairs. Are you aware of it? Yes. So having said that, I mean, it depends on what constitutes as news, what constitutes as stories. Who's speaking it, when are you speaking it? Because news, as they say, is time specific. And like what Maya was saying, you don't have to be first till you are accurate. I believe that within community radio space, there are stories to tell, and it depends on who's telling it and when and why. For instance, if there is, say, for instance, today this is happening, can this be called news? How would you put it in a community radio? How would you broadcast this on community radio? Anyone? Anybody? Just a wild guess. Can we broadcast it or not? Because I just gave you a disclaimer saying we are not allowed news and current affairs. Yeah. I mean, it depends, because as a community, you're a student community, and as a student community, you're telling your story. That means, hey, we are at this particular place, and we're going to be having this discussion with these other panelists, and basically you can format it the way you want to format it, and then it depends on how you treat it. So that is one thing. Yes, sustainability is an issue, but when I look at sustainability, I'm not just looking at it from financial sustainability per se. community radios and community media per se faces a lot of challenge in terms of technology, in terms of institutional sustainability, in terms of social sustainability. So if I have to look at it that way, a community radio cannot exist without communities. So which means, so in India, unlike other countries, the model is that we get a radio set up and then we look for communities. So we have the same challenge. We set up the radio station and then we were like, okay, what is a community? Who is a community? How do you define it? Are only students supposed to be community because we are licensed to a university? No. The broadcast says community, the license very clearly says community radio. The broadcast range is about 15-kilometer radius, so who is your community? How would you define it? Are you only going to be defining it by geography or by interest? So those are the questions that you need to ask. And then, I believe that each one of us belongs to so many different communities. For me, for instance, I'm a dog lover. I belong to a community that loves dog. I also love garbage. That means I'm also part of the garbage community. And then I'm also here within this community of practitioners. So at any given point in time, we all belong to multiple communities. So how would you define a community radio? To look at it from a social sustainability concept is that you need to be clear about your definition and engage with different groups and build solidarities among communities. So that's one way of sustainability. Finance, like yes, ads are limited because you can't compete with the commercial radios or with the All India Radio in terms of ad rates, or so you don't really get as many private ads that you would like to get. But you do get radio partnerships, but maybe unpaid. So you'll have to be creative. So the communities who are part of the station then becomes in some way some form of they actually fill in the gap in terms of funding. Yes, the university subsidizes us because they host us, they pay our rent, they pay the electricity, water, internet, and all of that. But at the core of it is the community that drives the station. And then you have to come up with innovative things like recycling within the campus or, looking at projects that you could, take up. Like we did one project which was with which was about 1,000 women in Pairasandra, where they actually used, funded by the DST, they actually used concept of mathematics to actually produce a soap opera on their lives. So it was the life of a domestic worker, 180 episodes, using the concept of maths in terms of how they go about dealing with domestic work per se. So you have to be creative at the end of it.
Thank you very much for that. And I think that, in a sense, takes us back to where we began. Timothy's point about Lankesh Patriki and what you were saying also, Maya. I think from 2 points of view, because again, what Pinky is talking about right now, at the core of this is the membership model, is the subscription model. It's where the listeners or the readers actually become an integral part of that community radio station or that community newspaper. The point about news is very, very valid, and I think there's a twinning in a sense to what Maya said, because although you're being creative about saying that, this is not news, what you are essentially doing, or what you're being forced to do, is you're circumventing news. Now, should you? I hope there will be a day when you don't have to do that, when we are able to say, well, this is news and it is my right to broadcast it, just like what you were talking about in another context. And I think that brings us back to the first question, Mr. Balaprasad, when the gentleman over here asked us very rightly that we're living at a time when there's not just biased journalism, but a climate of fear. And I think it would be great if we could have thoughts from all of you about how do we reckon with that. Would like to go first?
Again, as we've been, the speakers have been saying throughout, you have to remember why you're there, why you're doing what you're doing. That you have to tell the truth, you have to be a follower of those core principles of journalism. Whatever the fear, whatever the pressure, whatever happens. Otherwise, you're selling more than your time on air, you're selling more than your airtime, you're selling your soul. So you have to be true to yourself. There are consequences, there will be consequences, but that's always the case. We're seeing consequences across the country now for many, many different reasons. You, unfortunately, right now as a journalist in India, you have to be ready to pay that price. It's a very difficult time, but also a very challenging time. It's not a time when you're wondering about like Punjab's capital, things like that. It's you are very, very core, very basic human issues are being debated now. So it's a fascinating time to get into journalism. It's a difficult one, but you have to stay true to it. Otherwise, if you bow down, if you do what the authorities tell you, then you're selling yourself.
And how short do you want to go? Anyway. Yeah, anyone else? Yeah.
No, I've already spoken about this, just to add to that and to what Maya has been saying, is that sorry, personally, in many ways, even as I say it and even as I talk about it, I think that it's easy for us to sit in these delightful rooms and in a small, intimate crowd and talk about wonderful theories about all these things about how you should act, how you should react, and how things should be done. But until you are actually faced with that situation, it is difficult to know. It is difficult to know how you would react as an individual. And I think one of the things that an institution like this should train a journalist for is, I think, to be prepared for the fallout. And I don't know if that's a kind of thing that is talked about a lot here. People have paid the price. People have paid the ultimate price. But that is a part of journalism that one has to accept. If that sounds too somber, I'll just add another bit to what Maya was saying earlier, in that she was talking about, and the advice is similar. It's a similar advice I give fast bowlers in cricket. Accuracy above speed, and that is pretty much what Maya said in my field, which is cricket.
Thank you, Suresh. Of course.
I might sound like I'm digressing, but I actually have a point, which is, as we were talking about this the whole afternoon, there are two things that we all have to also acknowledge. We're a nation that are multilingual people, and we briefly mentioned a regional language paper. Regional language reporting is a very large part of the way people consume their news outside the metropolitan cities. Do not dismiss the potential that exists in that. Now, it can also be sometimes a head scratcher for all of you seated here because you want to do internships, you want to get employed tomorrow in the most notable newsrooms. Now, there are very few that are really, really strong and ethical and unbiased, right? But that does not stop you from starting your own. And like Timothy briefly mentioned, you are already employed. If you look at the numbers from the International Labour Organization, 172 million people are not employed. And a part of that statistic is each one of you. And that's not because you don't have jobs, it's because you're not thinking about yourselves as employed already. You are already on a job, you're on an assignment. Though you might just be wearing the tag of a student for a few months, you're already a journalist. Start thinking, start talking, start breathing like that. And if you do not speak English very well, don't think that you're being written off in the main market, because there is a market for vernacular. I've seen it through my career, and each of my colleagues here have seen it in their respective fields of work. So I would like to put a message out saying, please pursue multilingual journalism and make sure that when you read your news, there's the other problem that's greatly being discussed on social media, which is misinformation and fake news. Stand up for it. Somebody asked, how do I see change? You be the change. Do not share the fake news. Do not share those WhatsApp forwards. Do not be afraid to tell your families, your grandparents, and your uncles and aunts, what they're sending you is garbage. A lot of the times we're so conditioned by the way society tells us to behave that as journalists, it's exactly the opposite. So do not be afraid. Be empowered to stand up and say, I will not stand for that nonsense. I will not validate that fake news. We need more people who can bust these fake news. today that's a growing part of journalism. Can you imagine that we actually have companies that are busting fake news that shouldn't even be, which is why this is the right market for you. You guys get to change that narrative. So you're already employed, you're already entrepreneurs and journalists in your own right. Start living it and start speaking it.
Thank you, Deepti, for that. Would any of the panelists like to add to anything? Any final thoughts? If not, thank you so much for a very, very invigorating session. Thank you. It's been wonderful.
I'm just going to sort of turn from just a little bit. I'm going to ask Deepti to stay on stage because she's still in the digital world, and I'm going to ask our manager to just come down and we're just going to have a 10 to 12 minute discussion, and we're going to invite one of our alumni, Manisha, who works in media. And I'm going to also call upon a couple of our PP students to have a discussion. I think it's important to see, I mean, these values are very consistent, but how does it work in the real world? And I think we can go off camera for this. Let's just cut all the cameras, please, so that we can speak freely. We can still enjoy some of these places. And have an open discussion to see how it is, because our PG students are working here in a completely non-controlled environment. It'll be wonderful to see. I mean, actually, you have your own guidance notes working for